What's up, boys and girls? This is Gideon Williams, Autotrend's co-host, revolutionary, the voice of the industry. We are back again live with the Autotrends podcast, and we are excited to be here again as the train continues down the track. Lucas Welk joining us. What's up, brother?
Absolutely. Not much, not much. How are you, Gideon? The week
I'm
is
doing all
coming to a
right.
close here pretty soon.
Yeah, we're cranking. We're cranking hard. Running.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
great.
Absolutely. It's been a busy
Anything?
one.
Yeah, it has been a good week. I'm gonna tell you, I mean, geez, we're already here in March, right? I mean, Q1's winding down. Um, we look forward to peeling back Q1 financial reporting from the moguls in our industry, the big folks. See what's happening. Where's profitability? Where's growth?
Yep.
Yeah, it's exciting time.
Yeah.
What's been going on in your world?
No, I think we're hearing positive things all around. I think you're hearing the same positive news that I'm hearing. We're talking a whole bunch of different WDs, manufacturers, e-tailers, and Q1 seems to be good from our standpoint for most of them anyway. Which is
Yeah,
great news.
I think across the board we're seeing parts growth.
Yep.
I think what's interesting is as we dive into, gosh, what is this? Our I think 11th episode of Auto Trends. We're cranking
It is
away.
in the double
Um,
digits.
Double digits. That's right. I'll
Yeah.
tell you what though. How about Tunch, man? Last episode having him on with Gamut, Tunch Kip
Amazing.
CEO. Yeah.
Yeah, what a guy. And if you're not following him on LinkedIn, I really encourage everybody to follow him on LinkedIn because literally every single day that guy gets around. I mean, he is literally everywhere. He's got his, hand on the pulse for sure. We think we talk to a lot of people, but I mean, if you check out this guy's LinkedIn, he is literally spending his days in high level meetings at all the major manufacturers and good to see because he's a really good guy. He's a great guy, very supportive of us, and we're very supportive of him. But just an all around great guy. So good to see him.
Yeah. Well, I found it interesting, as we kind of debrief. His story, like, I knew he was from Turkey, but just hearing a little bit more in details how he got in the business,
Yeah,
coming from Turkey. I've always been fascinated by, leaders and folks that have a global perspective. I mean, you do, right? You have a place in the Philippines. You've spent
yeah,
many of your years abroad, and myself
yeah. The
included.
Middle East, and yep, yeah,
Mhm.
and yourself.
And today I live in sunny Florida, but I spent many years abroad and plan to continue to do so. But I'm always intrigued by that perspective, right? He's grown up in Turkey. His granddad decides he wants to go into the gasket business. They land OE contracts. They become a very successful organization, and then he's parlayed it into Gamut. I'm fascinated
Absolutely.
by the story, and I think if you're a young professional in our industry, follow guys like Tunch. He's a
Yeah.
Yang mentor. He is here for the industry, and I don't know. I love that.
Yeah. No, and I think, anybody that's lived abroad, you kind of take it for granted when you do because you look at it and say, well, it's not such a big deal. Yeah, I've lived abroad, 10 plus years. But the experience that you gain from that and the challenges, we've had our own companies abroad and you're bringing
Mhm.
in many people from many different backgrounds, many cultures, many different countries. And it's very challenging, having them work together. But when it works, Jesus, does it ever work? They're all bringing their own unique perspectives from that part of the world, from their cultural perspectives, and it really does work very well if you can get the high performing team together. um,
Well,
and it's really worked well for me in the past.
yeah, well, I too during my years abroad as well. I traveled to many different countries, first world, third world. It didn't matter to me. I was fascinated by cultures and people and society, and obviously now we are planted into the transportation and mobility business, right, with vehicles and parts and technology. But as I traveled, I took one thing away, like all these different diverse cultures and different levels of financial freedom, right? From a monetary economic perspective, right? From a GPD perspective, that country. is that every single place I ever went to, the objective was very simple. People just want to wake up, provide immense value, get on their scooter or get on their vehicle and transport from point A to point B to create just a positive lifestyle, bring value, provide for their family, have some laughs, right?
Yep.
Um, we all have the same
Yep.
objective, right? And
Yep.
I don't know. I just that's one thing I've really loved about, the automotive and Tunch, his view and take is it's very much the similar. We are in a global economy. It's important
That's
for
right.
us what we do as the Auto Trends podcast to be the voice of our industry, and bring people on from around the globe, right? Because I think when you look at the perspective of different cultures, you actually find yourself that we actually all have a very similar objective, you know?
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Regardless
I think
of
just
religion and
last week,
yeah.
between last week and this week, I think you and I were on three separate calls. We were on with a gentleman from Mexico, we're on a gentleman from Italy, and a gentleman, I think he was from the Netherlands, was he not? The other guy. But
Mhm.
that's just, three, wildly dispersed places, around the world that are looking to do business in the US. And a lot of them are asking, how can we export, how can we acquire parts from the US into these different markets? And but fascinating, yeah, just within 1 week, all these three people reached out to us, and we're putting them in touch with different manufacturers, distributors, and
Absolutely.
connecting the kind of dots for these guys. But certainly, I mean, you think the world is a big place, but in reality, that is the marketplace now. It's not bound to your city anymore, to your region, to your
No.
state. That's those days are gone. That's thinking very small if you're thinking on that scale.
Yeah, no, for sure. And today, this episode's a lot about just debriefing, but we'll go into some the global economy a little bit from a parts perspective. We'll go into marketplace selling. We'll go into I think we're seeing an evolution from distributors as well. We're seeing some changes on
Yep.
who they want to work with, what their growth levers are, et cetera. But before we get into that, Joe Delorme, he'll be on what? Tuesday?
That's fascinating. Yeah, next Tuesday, March the 26th, he'll be on. Yang Council member. Yep. Director
He's
of
a
Sales.
director of
Director of
product,
Sales.
director
Sorry,
of
Director
product
of Sales and Product, I believe.
and pro
Director
yeah,
of
okay,
and
yep,
Product. So he's
yep,
got two roles there. Yeah, with Dorman. So that's very, very exciting.
yep, and
Who else do we have coming up?
they're a monster, and Yang, and
Yep.
also he wants to talk right to repair, the right to repair
Yep.
pack. We're gonna go really in
That's,
depth on that. I think that piece of legislation. And then when
yep.
we look ahead to April, I think we've got a pretty excited April just to give a little bit of Sam Russo of Pivot Tree. She is a Pison expert, Pison Aces expert. She's going to unpeel the onion that is data. It's a wild, wild game. So excited for her.
Yeah,
And
no,
then,
she's going to be exciting, and she's another one to follow on LinkedIn as well. She's,
yeah,
Tunch was saying the other day that they had connected.
yep.
So that's very good because again, she's another one. If you follow her on LinkedIn, she's just like Tunch. She is absolutely everywhere. So looking forward to
Well,
having her.
so if you follow them on LinkedIn, Tunch and Sam, they're both out of Atlanta, and they were both on a morning flight heading somewhere, and they were on the same flight going out.
Oh,
They
right,
just kind
right,
of yeah, they just posted it or whatever. I was like, oh, that's pretty funny, you know.
right,
Yeah,
right.
awesome, awesome folks, just really connecting that, and then really excited later on the month in April, Ibrahim Mesbah, CEO of Revolution Parts. I think really a big visionary of our industry, has done so many great things with parts technology and the
Yeah,
evolution that was or was not to where we're at and where our industry's going. So I look forward to just getting his insights and how he thinks about technology and parts because it's a little bit nuanced.
yeah, yep.
And so that's going to be fascinating as well. So we look forward to. And then Brendan Fenney of SKU Vault,
That's right.
WMS. They're a big
Yep.
warehouse management system, and they own that small to mid market. So if you're a manufacturer and you're struggling with, okay, I don't have big budget, or I don't want to go get that big ERP, right? That big Oracle NetSuite or Epicor, or I don't have the budget for that. SKU Vault, and they have some technology partners as well. I want to say that they have partnered with potentially Revolution Parts, and I'm sure they've got some other great things. But when you look at the market as a small, mid-sized manufacturer, warehouse management, and just making your company smarter, so he's going to share all of his sights in on that, and so he's going to be exciting guy as well to have on our show. So we
Absolutely.
look forward to it.
Yeah, he's coming. Yeah, April 4th, I think it is. Yeah, we're really good.
Uh,
You know, we've got really exciting stuff, lined up. And we're really trying to getting, I think, the people that are reaching out to us, they're real visionaries, in the market. And
mhm,
and that's what excites me. You're not, it's great to have, experienced individuals that have been around forever and ever that can kind of tell us, what it's been like in the past, what they did
mhm.
to make them successful. But some of these new visionary guys, are you kind of blow your mind because what they're talking about is so far in advanced and which this industry isn't used to. This is kind of a dinosaur industry that moves very
Is
slowly and but now you're starting to see things pick up and people are realizing that, hey, I've got to get ahead of this now. It's not time to play catch up anymore. It's time to take the reins and run with it.
That's right. I think we're seeing that across the board. I think you have a lot of, I've always said this industry's very heavy with point solutions, right? We talk a lot about technology, the evolution, where that's all evolving to. Point solutions are heavy, but I think, as we continue to keep our pulse on this industry, we'll see technology gravitate and get a hold of, your growth strategy is not, okay, let's go hire 24, 25% more, sales staff or put more bodies at it. A lot of what we're seeing across the board is a lot of people are looking at, let's throw technology at it versus throw more bodies at it, because technology we know is the future, and it's the interconnective tissue and the framework that will propel your business forward, whether you're a manufacturer, a distributor, an e-tailer. We're just seeing it across the board. And this really parlays us into a really good topic, is around, as a part seller, marketplace activity, right? Is that a profitable place to build your business? Oh, well, we're selling on Amazon, eBay. Marketplaces are the way to go, right? Is that, because we're actually seeing not that?
Right.
And we were talking about it, just some of the evolution and changes with distributors, how they are doing business with that online part seller, right? Profitability is a component to that. If you're only
Yeah.
selling on marketplaces, um, can you go to any distributor and have a buying relationship there? We're seeing that actually that WDs are tightening up those requirements to, okay, you're only a marketplace seller. Well, we're not going to do business with you until you have a direct consumer site, until you have a marketing plan, tell me how you're going to be successful. We'll give you good pricing, but tell me how you're going to be successful. So we're seeing an evolution in that piece of the parts business. So if you're a parts seller, you can't just think of, eBay and Amazon, right? You know just as well as I do, the cost of acquisition, the cost of doing business on those
That's right.
platforms is 10, 11, 12%, 13%.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, and then you're absolutely right. The cost of doing business on these platforms, and it sounds cheap. If you're doing a small little bit of volume and it's kind of a mon pog, little setup that you got. But if you want to scale and you want to take your business seriously, it really adds up. And having a proper platform with a built-out website through a platform and auto parts, actual store online, when you add up what you're paying on those platforms, you're actually probably going to be a lot cheaper if you're doing the volume on these other platforms. Initially, your setup cost, yeah, might be a little bit more. But if you're going to take the business seriously and you want to start doing these volumes, I don't blame these warehouse distributors and stuff like that because, again, they're there to make money. They're not here to
Yeah,
sell the odd part here or there. They can't afford to spend a lot of time with you when you're doing a tiny little bit of volume each month. They can't give you the best pricing. So that's not their focus. They want to sell large amounts of parts.
that's exactly it. And well, it's funny because this is, I think, so I was a part of one of the very first partnerships with Amazon and automotive parts as a distributor. And our CEO, great mentor of mine, and just an awesome guy. He always had the joke that he said, when we first started this partnership with Amazon, this was way back in like 2006, 7, is he said, if I would have invested $100,000 into Amazon stock, I'd have made 10 to 50 to 20x what I
Right.
made over a 15-year partnership with Amazon. You think
Right.
about
Right.
that, right?
Yep.
If I would have
Yep.
just invested $100,000 and bought AMZ or whatever, the Amazon stock, I would
Yep.
have
Yep.
10x my return of what I returned over a 15-year partnership. And
Right.
the point of that story is that when we look at warehouse distributors, a lot of them jumped at that Amazon partnership early. And what it's done is over a period of time, it's starting to sink your business because what happens is when you're dealing with high volume retailers that are everything's about price to the bottom, price to the bottom, price to the bottom, there's a false sense of hope as a distributor because you want to make money and you go from 50 million to 75 million to 100 million. When you look at your P&L, that 100 million is a beautiful number. Holy shit, we've had all this growth over the years. But when you look at the vertical, your G&A, and you look at basically what it's costing to you to do business, your cost to serve model, and then you find that your net is either very very low or it's just not profitable. And what happens is it creates disparity. You feel good
Yes,
about 100 million, but when you get to actually what we're putting in our pocket, it creates this growth. Like you can sell that, hey guys, we got 100 million in sales. But if you leave out the profitability piece, you can begin to start to sink your business and you're not focusing on actually the profitable sales channels in an organization. And now you start to begin to sink. There is some
that's right.
distributors that have struggled with that. So
Yeah,
that's kind of the thing is when you look at marketplace selling, there's a lot of cost involved. Top line looks great, but the bottom line, oh man, that's just not that wonderful. And we're
that's right.
seeing that across the board with them tighten up their requirements. You have to have a selling strategy, you have to have a website, you have to have a marketing plan, and those are some things I think that will continue to evolve.
Well, you're absolutely right. And I think, on the marketing side of that is what are you losing if you're just a marketplace seller? What is your brand? At the end of the day, fine, you're selling some parts, but
Yeah.
you're not developing any sort of brand for the future. You're not developing a business that, you want to sell 10 years down the road and really build the brand and have an exit strategy. And I think that's key. I mean, if I owned a big parts company right now, I'm thinking it's all about brand more so than anything else, more so than pricing, more so than anything else. If I can build a trusted brand in the auto parts industry that people are comfortable with coming to, understanding what I sell, I'm offering good service, I'm offering good pricing, that beats everything else. That trumps everything, is having that trusted brand. So yeah, although you may be selling some parts, making some money, but you're sacrificing on the other side.
Well, and to your point, it's if I go on Amazon and I buy a part from, Lucas Auto Parts, and when I buy it, I get an email that says I placed the order's been shipped. Guess what brand that's under? Amazon.
Yep. Yep. Correct.
eBay, right? Marketplace. The
Correct.
marketplace is they're promoting their brand under your name. They really don't
That's
give
right.
a shit if you're successful. I mean, they want you to sell
That's right.
parts because they make 10, 12%. That's pretty good damn take rate, right?
Yep.
13%. But to your point, if you're not building a brand, and that's where we're seeing distributors really tighten up, right? We're not going to open a relationship with you unless we see your website, unless we see your marketing strategy. Are you investing in SEO? Are you investing in your search engine marketing? Do you have an email strategy? What's your
That's right.
branding? So like as we see these e-commerce divisions shift, they're shifting to more, do you have a sound strategy? The old, well, I'm a marketplace seller and I think I could sell more if I just go to marketplaces and get better prices. That shit's gone.
Yep.
That train has left. We've seen you know, we've seen distributors get a little bit over their skis on that. I was a part of eliminating, millions and millions and millions of dollars in business with Amazon type partnership because it's false hope, man. It looks
Yep.
good on the piece of paper, but when you really get deeper, it's not that
Yep.
good. And it's like,
That's
yeah,
right.
we did, 40 million, 50 million. That's great, but how many do we put in our pocket? Are we getting
Yep.
paid on the top line or no, it gets down to, what's your net income and what actually are you, what's that cash flow look like to where you can reinvest back in the business to grow. So
That's right.
I also think another, piece, and we can kind of get into it, but the global part, right? I think trade, right? Parts to and from. We talk a lot about that. You and I do. Is what are some of the challenges on that global part? And that's a whole nother can of worms. But um,
Absolutely. No,
It's
and
interesting.
I think, without, I'm not going to get political or mention any countries here, but we can all probably guess which one. But, a couple of the calls that we had last week were focused around one country in particular, exporting their goods into various markets, into the US, into Mexico, for a very, very cheap price. And, how is that impacting, the local markets, local manufacturers, local WGs? And it's devastated some of the the companies in these countries, and the quality is just not there either. But the average consumer, their concern is the average consumer isn't taking the time to really look in. They're just looking for the cheapest parts sometimes,
Hmm.
and if that's all you can afford, and they're buying these cheap parts, and it's taking away the market share of good manufacturers that might be slightly a little bit higher in price. But unfortunately, they're getting flooded right now with these other parts. And they're trying to come up with a strategy rather than simply lowering their cost to try to compete. How else can we compete? And again, it comes back to branding and marketing. But, certainly there has to be an awareness campaign on that as well.
Well, and I think that's another reason we're seeing distributors lock up. Like, you're just a marketplace seller, they're starting to just say, "Look, we're not interested," because that's not the next level growth. It's not.
That's right. That's
It's
right.
just not, because you see genuine parts being reverse engineered. I mean, let's just call it what it is: Chinese knockoff, right? I think we can.
Sure.
Let's
Of
just call it
course.
call it what it is, right? Let's,
Absolutely. No,
this is what it
exactly.
is. This is what it
Exactly.
is. Like, we
Exactly.
can skirt
Exactly.
around it, but it is. I mean, that's what it
Ex-
is. And so yeah, so like they're
100%.
basically trying to piggyback off of that OE quality, or even higher OE quality. Like, I've learned so much just about reman in general, right?
Yeah.
But that basically that product that's there, and when you have this kind of reverse engineered, quick to fail type of item, yeah, sure, it's a lower cost, but you're really just detrimenting the industry, and that's where marketplaces, I think, have done a really bad job of identifying that genuine part, or maybe the genuine aftermarket part, or a reputable seller or manufacturer, to, okay, we're just trying to take market share. So I mean, we got to be,
Exactly.
as consumers in our industry, we have to be educated, right? We have to understand what we're buying. But I think it goes back to, when you're a parts seller and you're looking at building this incredible e-commerce program and really servicing your markets, you want to have reputable sources. You want to be a reputable brand. You want to be somebody that is looked to for value, not for,
Exactly.
they're just trying to turn a buck and I don't really give a shit about you, right? We've all been a
Exactly.
part of that type of stuff. So
And you're always going to get the consumers that are only looking for the bottom line price. I just want the cheapest thing, whatever. It's as long as it works for a month or 2 months and then it breaks, fine, I'll buy a new one. But you're always going to have those people. But I've never been a believer, and I think most people now are very aware. I mean, I know in the US, there's a huge movement. I think most people are very conscious about, buy from the USA, manufactured in the USA. I'm very aware when I buy things, where it's manufactured, where it's made. If it's locally made, I'm quite happy to pay more money.
yeah, me too.
Generally, not saying I'm wealthy by any stretch, but I'm happy, if I know who's manufacturing it, or I know I'm supporting the local economy in this local factory where I know people are employed. That's what I want to do. And same thing when I buy any sort of consumer goods, whether even if it's not auto parts, I want to go with a trusted name, a trusted brand that I know if I have an issue with it, I can send it back. It's got a warranty. It's manufactured well. They're treating their employees good. They've got good social initiatives. And I think, many companies now, as we know, are building their brands based on that. Yeah, they also have good quality parts, but you look at what they're doing from a social aspect, for their workers, for their employees. People do, I believe, really now take that into consideration more than ever, which I think is great. They're supporting us
You
appropriately.
you absolutely do, and you're right. I mean, I think that marketplaces and Amazon's been a leading driver of that. I think it's inevitable. What did Jeff Bezos said? He said it's inevitable that, about Amazon. He goes, it's inevitable that we will fail. He goes,
Yep.
but our job is to elongate that as long as possible to not fail, right? Look at Kmart,
Right.
Sears, look at all these big global brands, Blockbuster. I'm not talking about US, but we look at global,
Yep.
they fail all the time. And so I think we're seeing a shift here, or how consumers think about it. We're seeing a shift across the board. And as we kind of wind out, this episode here, I think some of the takeaways are: one, WDs are tightening up their requirements. Warehouse distributors are. I think data is improving. Catalog data is improving across the board. Again, take that with a grain of salt. But typically, catalogs are becoming more rich. And then when you look at marketplaces cannot be your sole foundation of how you're going to grow your business. If that
Correct.
is the number one factor in how you grow your parts business is through marketplaces, you've missed the boat. You should just get out of the business altogether and just stop. Do something
That's
else.
right.
And then, I think we'll get on this on a whole nother episode, but I think when we look at global trade, I think that there's actually a monster opportunity in international trade because there's parts needed across the globe. And there is not a lot of good companies that have cracked that code, like how you're using freight forwarders, how you're basically servicing that international market. We'll get in that global parts e-commerce conversation at another time. But I'd say that those are really some takeaways to begin to think about as we evolve and we see what's happening. Outside of that, we look forward to bringing some more value and some more episodes on the matter. So
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, 100% agreed. And yeah, we just wanted to have a quick little episode here today and kind of go over some talking points that we thought were kind of important as a follow up to our last few guests. So, no, I think this will be very, very helpful to people as they want to grow and expand their parts business and look at what's in the future of parts.
you got it.
Because again, you just got to stay on the ball. I mean, we know because we live it every day, but we kind of take it for granted. But you just got to stay in the loop. And listen to our podcast, listen to 100 other podcasts that are also going on out there. Listen to the thought leaders, the CEOs. There's tons of stuff on YouTube, but just stay up to date. Really, if you're in the industry, make sure you keep your finger on the pulse, per se, on this stuff.
100%. And guys, folks, Auto Trends listeners, it's been an awesome year so far. We look forward to bringing so much value to you guys. As always, if you have an initiative in this industry and if you have great value to bring, we welcome you on the Auto Trends podcast. The best way to support our podcast is to like and subscribe. If you want to share our content, awesome. We are very appreciative, but you don't have to. Again, we don't get paid for this. We are here for the industry. The best way to support us is to purely like and subscribe, engage with our content. And we really appreciate every single one of you listeners. We appreciate the industry. We are here for you. We are the Auto Trends podcast. See you guys.
See you guys.